Welcome back to the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast. I thank everyone out there for joining us. As I say each and every time, I know you guys got lots of choices, so thank you for spending time with us. Today, it's one of my favorite types of episodes because, quite frankly, I like the type of food, and I'm excited for Kacie to share a little bit more about it. But Kacie, talk to me. Who is Kacie, real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you get to do for a living.
Sure. I'm a mom of four. I only ever pretty much worked in a restaurant, born and raised in a restaurant. My dad has had a restaurant for 44 years, so it's a lot older than me. And so I've grown up, born and raised in the restaurant industry. Live now in the south suburbs of Chicago. And I have two dogs. I wear a lot of hats on a day-to-day basis with being a mom and working in restaurants, both the franchise side and in the actual physical restaurant. I'm still in the day-to-day operations. So it's a lot, but it's fun and it's cool what I get to do.
That's awesome. And some of our longtime listeners and people that know me on a personal side will know I also have four kids, and
It's
that's exhausting in and of itself. You know,
yeah, yeah.
and outside of trying to carry on a career and grow and lead. So you talk
Thing.
about restaurants. You've lived in the
Yeah.
restaurants your whole life. Talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about the restaurant that you get the privilege of serving.
Sure. The name of the restaurant's Pop's Italian Beef. My dad started it, like I said, 44 years ago, 1980. And it's fast casual, if you will. So it's burgers, dogs. I think one of the reasons we've been so successful is our menu is very expansive. So we have everything from fun salads and wraps. We do catering for parties and home. We also, like I said, we have something for everybody, which is what I love. I love that it's family business. So I get to work with my family, which is good and both good and bad. I don't know if you've ever had the privilege of working with family.
Tell that story here in just a second because I'm close to 30 years working with my father as
Wow.
well.
Yes, bless.
Fair therapy session later and talk a little bit about that. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's good and bad, right? It could go. It definitely has its perks, and then on the other hand, we duked it out before too. But yes, our restaurant is very much family oriented. Even our franchisees. So we were a licensing agreement for 30 years. We became a franchise in 2010, and so now we're up to 16 restaurants, which is great. It's been a slow growth, but what I love about the restaurant is that I would say that each restaurant is its own mom and pop shop within the community that it is. We're very community focused. We try to really get into the community. Our employees feel like family to us. Like I said, we've been around a really long time now in the area we're in. Not only are we in Illinois, but we are also in Indiana. I feel that in the areas that we are in, we really try to be that, although we are a franchise, still that mom and pop shop feel. So it's cool. It's cool. It's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, and again, I'm sure we'll talk offline about the pain
Oh
and
yeah.
suffering of
Oh yeah.
going on family vacations and if you're only talking about work and yeah, the
Yeah.
whole nine yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I was privileged enough to grow up going into the office and working. I've been working in restaurants since I was 9 or 10 years old, dealing with restaurant tech stuff. Very
But
familiar with that
keep
pain and suffering.
humble though. It does keep you humble. And I will say, and my children are young now, but I say that every kid I think needs to work in a restaurant, if not some sort of job dealing with the public. It
Okay.
teaches skills that I don't think a lot of kids have these days as far as communication and again, humility and customer service. And I guess not on the restaurant side of things, but just a human side of things. If you have a child that's old enough to work in the restaurant industry, send them into the restaurant industry just for a few years.
Yes. Oh, my 16-year-old just had her first job and she's working with the public and she's like, people are so dumb. Well, I understand. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
quickly, but it's
Yeah.
true. It's hard.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
you growing up in that space, it's the same way. And my first
Yeah.
shop was waiting, making sandwiches and then waiting
Yeah.
tables and having to deal with it. It's through the concept a little bit. Talk about it being fast casual because I've done my research. And for those that aren't familiar with having come into the store, you talk about it being fast casual. It's
Yep.
been around for 40 years. Fast casual hasn't been around for 40 years, but has been around for 40 years. And I say that there's not been a traditional 40-year fast casual concept. When you
Right.
think about it, it was fast food or it was full
Yeah.
service. But you guys were doing this early days. Walk through what the concept would look like if I was a new consumer walking into your store that I'd never been to before. Give me a visual for those that might not know, because many of the people still listen on audio, and so if they want to know more about the feel, what did it look like? What does it feel like when I walk into a pub?
So another thing I will say, if our corporate location, I'll just start there. So our corporate location obviously been around 40 plus years, and it has only been walk up. So you can only walk in the restaurant. There's no seating. There's no drive through. There's periodic course, but you have to walk into the restaurant, place the order, and then you kick it to go. And it's a very small footprint. And what's interesting to our concept, we cook and slice all of our beef fresh daily in all of our stores. We have proprietary brands. Our hot dog is ours. Our french fries are ours and proprietary to our store. So what I would say about our franchise then being expanded, we have a lot of different footprints. We have a few in gas stations now. We have a few that are full service, meaning you can sit down. There's drive through. There's all the things. We have ones that have gambling in them. So like I said, our restaurant now that we have grown, very versatile. And I think it's contributed to like our world and how it's grown and developed and keeping up with times and what does that look like. I always say that if you could have your perfect restaurant, I think that you should have all the avenues. I think you should have seating. I think you should have walk-up. I think you should have drive-through. I just think it makes it easy for the customer. Customer for them to come in and whatever is easiest for them. Like a mom and all the kids in the cars, it's really hard for me to get all 4 of my kids out of the car and walk into a restaurant. But if they have drive-through, then I'm going to pick the drive-through. But anyways, yeah. So they come in, they place the order, carry out, and to go. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
And now a word from one of our sponsors. Every restaurant operator understands the chaos of a restaurant kitchen during the meal rush. Restaurant Technologies Total Oil Management Solutions is an end-to-end automated oil management system that delivers, filters, monitors, and recycles your cooking oil, taking the dirtiest jobs out of your kitchen and letting your employees focus on more important tasks. Control the kitchen chaos with Restaurant Technologies and make your kitchen safer. No upfront cost. To learn more, check out rti-inc.com or call 888-796-4997.
No, it absolutely did. You alluded to Italian beef. Obviously, there's a very popular show on TV that kind of is inside of the world of Chicago. I selfishly, or not probably, I guess years ago, there's a guy that used to work for us, Steven Dracos. I'm still friends with him. He works for Vienna Beef and great dude.
Yeah.
Chicago guy, distributes Vienna Beef and good guy, but my very first time, probably 20 years ago. And gross everything, it made me try a bunch of whole different Chicago style food. So for those that are less familiar with that brand or that product, even because it's different, it is a very Chicago staple that now the likes of Portillo's and others are getting out to the masses. But you grew up with it. I had to experience it 20 plus years ago with Steve because he's from Chicago. He's like, you got to try this stuff. But walk us through, what is Italian beef? Something that you guys pride yourself on, something you guys do in-house. But it's not all Italian beef is created equal, and it's a very specific genre to the extent that you guys are looking to expand that palette out to the rest of the country.
Absolutely. It starts with the first chop of meat when you get it. We're very specific on what kind of meat, what that comes in our door. Right now, we're using a kosher meat from Nebraska, and with an outside brown is very specific to in the cow where it is. And I think all the small details play a part into what that final flavor tastes like. And one of our growing pains, as we were growing our franchise, waters and gravy, it's 99% water, right? And so all the different areas have different water tastes. And so we were noticing that all the beef wasn't tasting the same, and then it came down to the water, and now the filtration process that you have to do with the water to make the beef all taste the same now. But yes, each store cooks and slices it in-house. And so it's funny that the first time people come and eat a sandwich, I think they're ordering almost like a cold cut sub. And so the first time people are like, oh, mustard and mayo, or I'll have pickles or whatever. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not how you do it. And you got to get it dunked and dipped in the gravy, and it's soggy and it's falling apart. And then you got to garnish it with the peppers that are, we make it those in house. And it's a little different. So jardiniere, obviously everybody doesn't know that term either, but we have our own spin on our jardiniere. It's what we're famous for, I think, so to say. And so you can't have our beef sandwich and you don't, I think, without the jardiniere on it. But we also have sweet peppers and mild jardiniere, but that's really how it's served. So it's either cheese, mozzarella, or liquid cheddar. And it's supposed to be, I think the messier the sandwich is, the more delicious it is. And you're right. You're so right. It is definitely native to our area. And so when I go other places, even when we go on vacation and I'm like, can I have a side of jardiniere? And they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what's jardiniere? I'm like, oh gosh, you guys are missing out.
And it's so funny that you say that, but it's true. And again, Portillo's and not, I'm sure they're direct competition, but they also have now started expanding nationally.
Yes.
I remember one of our board members at our company, he's from Chicago, or he was originally from Iowa, moved to Chicago because everybody from Iowa needs to get out of Iowa at some point unless they're farming back in Iowa. And so he moved to Chicago, he moved to the big city. And anytime I would go by a Portillo's in Southern California, I would bring him a sandwich because it was like being back home. And now he lives in Phoenix. They've got a bunch of them there. But
they do,
again, you talk about it. So sandwich, you talked about dunking, it's on a French roll. It's just such a different experience. And then for those that aren't familiar with even what jardiniere is, talk me through that. I'm very familiar with it. I'm a sweet and hot peppers person. I actually like the Italian combo with an Italian sausage and beef on top of it. That's my favorite.
What's cool is it's a pickle. I guess the best way to say it is it's pickled, and they different flavors of hotness: mild, medium, hot. We have two in our store. We have a mild, which is like your traditional with the carrots and the celery and the peppers within it, and then our one that's proprietary to us. That's only peppers, celery, And then, of course, within it, like it's a oil based and it's got the red pepper flakes in it that gives it the kick. And what's really cool is that the same ingredients in our hot peppers is the same ingredients we use to make our Italian beef. So it marries those two flavors together, and it is just the best sandwich in the whole world. And I'm not saying that because I grew up in it. I truly believe it.
I love that. I love that. So talk me through, you guys have expanded. You talked about some of the pain and suffering as you guys have
Yes.
expanded beyond kind
Yes.
of the first couple of units. You have challenges because the bread is going to be different. The
Yes.
beef is going to be different.
Yes.
The water is going to be different.
Yeah.
Through how you guys think about that as a brand and as a organization, because consistency of product and making sure that the product is as high quality as possible is critical to ensuring the success of that restaurant. And so if I'm used to coming there and I grew up on the sandwich, and then you put a store in Phoenix and it doesn't taste anywhere close to the same, you're going to be like, what the heck? This doesn't taste right. So talk me through how you guys even consider that and what your guys' market development phases look like as you guys are trying to make sure that the product is consistent as you get beyond the kind of core.
I think that, and we've certainly fallen on our face in this. We have moved up, and as far as, like I said, Kalamazoo, which is Michigan, which 2-hour drive, right? We went on a college campus for the festival. We thought it was going to be amazing. It's on a college campus. The town to support it. It's a big town. And again, you fall on your face when you learn these hard things that you didn't think about. And of course, a lot of learning experience, big learning curve. There's someone now in-house that has worked for us for 20 plus years. That is the guy that goes around each store and, of course, tastes the sandwiches. And it's like a mystery shop deal. It's not a scheduled visit that he comes in, but he's certainly, and then my father, who's the CEO of the company, still very much involved. He will pop in and taste that beef and taste the sausage and just make sure all the products taste. And I think that's the best way to do it is a mystery shop. It's a secret shop to make sure. And then, of course, a lot of it comes down to training. Are they being trained? Is it the right person? They're not just putting Joe Schmo off the street onto the grill to do it for the first time, or certainly not to cook and flake the beef every morning if they haven't done it. And so I think when that comes down to it, it comes down to training, and then we're learning as we go too. We've thought certainly about doing commissary because, of course, if we wanted everything to be exactly the same, commissary would be our way to go. But right now, take away from our brand right now and our story and kind of the thought behind our brand and the cooked and fresh daily and trying to keep everything as fresh as possible for that customer. Right now, we're not there yet. And so that's why I say if we're not willing to go out of market, far out of market until we have that all figured out, because of course, we don't want to let a customer down and we don't want to mislead a customer to come to one of our restaurants and then they come and that's not the experience that they're used to back in Chicago. And we're certainly not there yet. But like I said, we're in Illinois and Indiana right now. And I hope to grow that number continually as we go on in years. But certainly it's not easy. Lots of growing pain.
Absolutely. And having been in the restaurant industry for 30 plus years, I watch people struggle and I watch people make these same types of mistakes. Where some of these questions come from. So I'm going to flip around a little bit. Something you said on your intro, you talked about how passionate your stores are about being part of the local community. And I philosophically believe that restaurants are the heart of many communities.
Oh, yes.
Because that's where people congregate. That's where people celebrate. That's where people mourn. They do a lot of things inside a restaurant, around the table and around food. Obviously, COVID took a bite out of all of us as it relates to that. As things have come back around, why is that such a critical component to what it is that you guys do? Because you put it out in the front, which means it's something that's important to you guys. It's important to be part of that community. Why is it such a critical component that they live and are part of that community towards the growth and the success of what it is that you guys do?
Because I will certainly say, and the pandemic was a huge eye-opener for us. If we wouldn't have had the support of the community, I don't know we would still be here today. And when I say that, it's because, like I said, we're an integral part of the community. We have had, it's crazy. We've had people that started in our restaurant 4 years ago, one of the first employees, and now their kids are working for us or their grandkids are working for us. And so during that pandemic, you know what it was like. It was ghost towns, but we never really shut down. And of course, we had lost a lot of our employees, but of course, like a lot of people had lost their jobs as well. So there was teachers that lost their jobs that had worked for us years ago that had come into our restaurant to help us out, just to, like I said, help. And so I think that community support, not only are you serving hopefully a great product and giving them a good experience, but they're also helping you stay in business. And so I always say customers are great, but your fans, and when you turn those customers into fans and then family, your business, it's almost a no fail. And I would say married with treating your employees like family. I think then as far as a restaurant goes, you're not just no one's dream job is to work the line at a restaurant. And I always say that's nobody's dream job, but I think when they're family to you, and I think that things that we've talked about in growing up in the restaurants and teaching all the things that, that they learn as far as getting scheduling and missing Saturday night out with your friends, but having to go into work. I just think that it's a huge learning curve, obviously, for them and for us, but being part of the community, we do fundraisers, like all of our fundraisers, as far as like the bounce back night. And you said, like, we cater people, we cater people's baby showers. All the single light, we cater people's weddings. And so it is so cool to get to know those families and to be a part of their families. And then you see them get married, and then you're like, oh, how's it? And then they get pregnant, and then the baby. And like I said, and then they grow up, and then they're 16 before it, and then they're working alongside of you. So
Yes.
it's cool to see. And people always ask, well, do you have employment issues? And of course we have employment issues, but not as much as I would say is your local corner franchise, not to, like a McDonald's or something else, because we are such an integral part of the community.
Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions like, how am I going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you can take orders on your website, via app, or by phone. Then drivers who are part of the Uber Courier Network will pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customers' doorsteps. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Check out uberdirect.com to learn more.
Yeah. And it's funny you tell the story. There was a diner that I grew up going to with my grandparents. And when my grandmother passed away, we went back to that diner, and the kids of the owner, the kitten owners, were hurting our breakfast that morning at the diner.
Yes.
I grew up right alongside them, and they're now serving me because they're now in their teens and 20s, but I grew up alongside
I
of the
love
kids.
that.
Growing up when I was 6 years old, my dad was actually telling me that story the other day. But you're right. That place is one of the places when I go back to the grandparents' community that I go to, because when they watch me grow, they peel my stuff, they change the nectar, when I was little, my father wouldn't do it. But it's true. And I love that you guys put that on the forefront of what it is you guys do. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that story. Just once again, you talked about the original model when you guys got onto the store with a and I don't I see you remind me. What does it mean to you? And what does it look like? And what is it that you guys are looking for in potential partners to grow the brand beyond the 16 stores you guys are in today?
So the licensing agreement was very much so that as they opened their own mom and pop shop, right? So licensing was just to use the brand and use the name, but it wasn't as specific on to make sure you had the same experience if you were at one location versus another. And so when it was the government that kind of came after us and said, you have too many locations here. What are we doing? You're operating as a franchise, but you have licensing agreement. So that's when in 2010 we became a franchise. And so now and there's been certainly a lot of growing pains there as well, because if you are a licensing agreement and working at the mom and pop shop, now we're coming and saying, hey, you got to use this, you got to do that. This is not brands. So there's been definitely growing pains there. But as we grow, we see the benefit, power of numbers, and to advertise for 16 stores versus one store is a lot more beneficial to do it. And especially, I know you use technology and all the things that have come to grow. And so a lot of our franchisees are older. And so they're not, some of our locations still take orders with pen and paper, like an old school diner like that, and we put it back in the kitchen and they're looking at it. And definitely about half our locations are up to date in the technology and the other half are not so much. And we have a KES screen in the back of the kitchen that for ease of reading a note, because the last time I was be like, oh, we can't see, is that a K? So anyway, what does that mean? So in a lot of ways, technology has helped us fast forward that. But again, like anybody else, I think we still have our woes as far as being from a franchise or from a licensing agreement to a franchise. And then the growth structure, I think that it'll help us continue to grow as the more unified we are. And so that's why, like I said, we still have pain points, of course, things that they would like to do differently. But it's been, 13 years or 14 years, excuse me. And I finally feel that and every year we get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, as far as when you go into one location, you still get the same feel as when you're in the original location. So yeah, I think that, yes, franchising, obviously, especially here on state bound, is the way to go.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what it is. What is it? You talked about non-traditional. You talked about being inside of a casino. You talked about being inside of a gas station. You talked about being in a small little takeout only. What does an ideal franchisee look like? Was it inline? Is it standalone? Is it drive-through? Is it an end cap? As people have started to consume food in different ways, talk about all of these different ordering modes. Your traditional Subway, Jimmy John fits a certain model. A Chick-fil-A obviously fits a different model. And national brands, we recognize what they look like. For those that aren't familiar, what are you looking for? Is it an inline? Is it a standalone building? Is it a 5,000 square foot? Is it 2,500 square foot? Is it 10,000 square feet? What is it that you guys are looking for in properties, and then really in in franchise partners as you guys are going out trying to grow?
So I think that that's a tricky question just because our model is so diversified. And I would going back, I will always say that I think you could have, if you could have the perfect piece of property owning, because if you ever resell obviously down the road, that's where your money's at. Kind of as we saw in Portillo's sold out, that's how they made, I think, a lot of their money is because of property, right? And so we have both. We have owners that own and we have owners that rent. And so I would always say I would have it all. I would have the drive-through, I would have the seating, I would have, they have the small casino on the side. That's another form of revenue. I think we need to take advantage of every form of revenue. On the flip side of that, I will say that what I do love about our structure is it's specific to you. And all I would hope is when we do that initial interview process for the franchisee that wants to come on board with us, that you share those same values, that you're not just looking to put anybody in your store to run your store, that you will have a hand in what goes on and who's working the store, if not yourself. You definitely can see a difference when someone just throws any old manager in on that. And I think the customer can feel it as well. Like I said, not only from the taste of the quality to the customer experience when they're first ordering. So I would like to say that I would hope that they would share our same core values. And if not, then it's really not a good match. But what I liked about it is we're very versatile as far as what works for you. If you only had a small piece of property, we can make that work. If you had a large piece of property, if you wanted to rent, if you wanted to own, again, we're very versatile and our royalty structure is very low. And so with that being said, my dad, he never left the store for his first X amount of years. And so he knows how hard he had to work to build his restaurant and build this brand. And so he, if little as possible, wants to take that from the next kind of generation of franchisees. Because it's very hard to open your own restaurant. What is it?
Absolutely.
The first year, I think 60% of franchisee or restaurants fail, and within the first 5 years, 80%. And so he understands all that. He understands what it takes to really get a restaurant up and running. And he wants to make our franchisees as successful as possible, but also have that working relationship where, yes, we want you to be successful, but we also want you to have our core values and to have that customer have that same experience, whether it is a gas station or whether it is a standalone or whether it is a drive.
It's awesome because you don't find a lot of franchise groups that are willing to be open to the format, which I love that you guys are able to make those things work. Ironically, I was watching a YouTube video within the last 48 hours of a lady that was running a Japanese restaurant at the bottom of a subway station. It was Bon Appetit or something. When she was in a subway station in New York City and she's doing crazy volume and has full seating for 6 months out. But it's like those non-traditional venues to be able to really impact the community is great. And with that, I guess one of the other questions that we get asked a lot on the franchise model is, are you just looking for established franchises that already have a bulk of other brands? Or are you guys looking for those owner-operators that are looking to get 1 or 2 properties for themselves or their family to be able to grow?
So it's funny. My dad, obviously being the one that had the growing pains of growing the business and kind of me being the next generation of seeing growth and what does that look like. And the reason our growth plan is so slow is because if he would have his way, he would only sign on franchisees that were going to work their restaurant. They would definitely not be multi-unit operators, and they would certainly not be corporations that buy this brand and so forth. So on and so forth. But as obviously that's the way of the world right now, and these groups are the way to grow your brand. And so again, I think it goes back to, is it a good fit? I think that conversation would be had. And as far as what that's going to look like, who are going to run your stores, of course, multi-unit operators are great. We have a bunch of them. And ironically, they are all family owned. We have one guy that's an operator. We have 10 children. Three of his children all own locations and stuff. It's cool. We have another one that's a 4-unit operator. They're all brothers. Each brother has a location and then they all own one together. So it's very cool to see that the family dynamic is still within our franchisee. But of course, we still have one-off operators. And like I said, it just has to be a good fit. I think it's not so much like cookie cutter. And that's what diversifies our brand. It's not cookie cutter as much as it is being a franchise. If that makes sense.
And it's franchise, but like you said, you guys give some level of autonomy to allow them to be part of the local community. They can't go change the beef recipe, but they can do different LTOs or different things that are related to the local community that they can support this school or this project that's going on. And those
I love it.
I'm like,
nail on the head.
I'm turn the script a little bit on you and talk to you. You've got 4 kids. I believe you said before we hit record that you're married. What family order when you guys go into the store? What's the family order for those that maybe show up and it's like, hey, this is what I get. This is what my husband gets. Don't even tell me all. But you got 4 kids. What do you guys order? What's your favorite 1 or 2 menu item? Hot dogs.
Hot dog. This was actually a crazy story. So it was National Hot Dog Day last Wednesday, in case you didn't know. And our brand, 13 13,284 hot dogs we sold in one day. And so hot dogs, although our beef is what we're best known for, the hot dogs are what we sell the most of. And so again, it's a proprietary to us. And they always, my dad is very specific when choosing the flavor profile that there's no seeds on our buns, which I know is not always what people from Chicago want to hear. And the traditional Chicago dog does have seeds on the bun. But my daughter calls them polka dots. She's like, I don't like my polka dots on my bun, Mom. So she does the hot dog. My son will do a cheeseburger. My little guy does chicken nugget. I normally do a beef or combo. I'm a sucker for a beef and combo. And then my husband actually loves the chicken pita. We have a guy, and so I've grown up on it, right? I've eaten there my whole life. And so we have a guy that's worked there forever and ever. And so my husband was like, can you just make me something funny for the untraditional bit on our traditional menu? And it's easier for me to continue to eat the same food over and over. But my husband says, what else can I try? You know, like I need something different. So he's always more willing to switch it up. I stick to chicken or beef usually.
So it's funny you say that. I'll tell you 2 quick stories. So I had a couple on who started Biscuit Deli out of Louisville, Kentucky, a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about it. And I said the exact same thing to that couple. And husband, it's traditional. What's on the menu? This is what I'm ordering. And the wife, I'm arguing with their mom that she was saying, I change it every time. And then the second story is my wife worked at In-N-Out growing up, and the way she gets her French fries with bread and lemon juice, like she never eats lemons on anything else. But when she goes in and out for her French fries, she puts lemons on and does spread and grilled onions. I don't know, whatever it is. Why is it this way? But to your point, when you eat it every day, you can switch it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny.
Thank you for telling a couple of stories of the crew at home. People get in touch. How do people learn more about what Pops could do for them? And I'm intrigued. I've sat listening and I'm like, you know what? I've always wanted to. I grew up on it and I moved out of town, or I've been wanting to get into the restaurant business, but I think this would be a great thing for the community that I'm in. How do they learn more? How do they engage with your franchise community and see what makes them?
On our website, we have a franchise fill out form, like it's a real small email where you're looking. It's real generic, so to say. Then we'll have someone from our team contact you back. If you're just more interested and want to chat about the brand or look into it, I would say our social pages, Facebook is obviously a great place to get a feel for our restaurant. We just actually brought all that in-house. So there's someone at the store daily kind of taking pictures and giving you a feel for a brand, not just like a generic picture of a cheeseburger or a generic picture of a salad. I love when social media is like that real time. There's a face at the restaurant that's actually running your social page, not from third party. And so she does a really good job. So if you're looking to feel for our brand, I would definitely say check out Facebook. If you're looking to open a franchise, please email us. We also have info@popseast.com. You can email in. That's the thing. Email that the website will take you to. But yeah, I would, love any inquiries. If it's a good fit, it's a good fit. We love that. But we are specific. We are picky, and I would say that's why our growth has been slow. But we're really proud of our brand, and we're really proud of the franchisees we have. And I think that's not something you can always find. And
I love that. And having done this for quite some time, I think the fact that slow growth, often picking the right partnersip and making sure that you can help make them successful is really critical to ensure that the brand gets out there and sustains beyond just and I'll do a note to a previous guest who a lot of the listeners know, Sean Wall, chef out of San Diego. He does his own social media and he's built he's a restaurateur, barbecue place in San Diego that has built a media company because his saying, and he talks about it all the time, is nobody's coming to tell your story. You've got to tell the story of your customer and your brand and what it is that you're doing. So the fact that you guys are on that, I commend you, because too many restaurants post these glossy pictures of that burger's not really going to look this way. And you go in and you're like disappointed. You're like, this thing was supposed to thing to me and have steam coming off of it. And it's not going nuts. Congratulations for that. And Kacie, thank you so much for telling the story. I love that you guys are doing this. I love that you came on. To our listeners, guys, like I said at the onset, you guys have lots of choices. So thank you guys for fifth. If you guys have got other people you guys would like to hear on the show, send them my way. And Kacie, thank you for your time. Thank your dad for founding the brand.
Yes, I will. I'll forward the message.
And make it a great day.